Fleet Admiral Zekthul arrived at the scene 3 hours later. He brought with him the largest battle group the Empire had assembled in 50 years. 28 warships, including 2 massive dreadnoughts, dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. But when Zekthul saw the situation, he stopped his fleet at a safe distance. 14 Imperial ships floated helplessly with their weapons destroyed. Not one crew member had been killed. The unknown human vessel sat peacefully among them, its blue shield still glowing softly. No Imperial commander had ever seen anything like it. Admiral Rixtak, Zekthul's voice came over the communication channel. Report. Rixtak's image appeared on the flagship's view screen. She looked shaken. Fleet Admiral, the alien vessel has capabilities far beyond our current technology. They disabled our entire fleet without casualties. Their precision was perfect. Zekthul studied the tactical display. He had commanded Imperial fleets for over 30 years. He had conquered 17 star systems and defeated dozens of alien species. But he had never seen anything like this. How many ships do they have? He asked. Just one, sir. The same vessel that was originally detected. One ship did all this? Yes, Fleet Admiral. On the human vessel, Captain Lee Minho watched the new Imperial fleet with calm eyes. Dr. Choi Hana was analyzing the alien formation patterns on her display. Captain, she said, this is their response to a serious threat. Fleet Admiral Zekthul has brought enough firepower to destroy entire worlds. Are they preparing to attack? Lee asked. Not yet, sir. I think the Fleet Admiral is trying to understand what happened here first. Lieutenant Kim Taeyang looked up from his station. Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the new flagship. It's Fleet Admiral Zekthul himself. Put him through, Lee ordered. The view screen showed an aging alien with scarred features and intelligent eyes. Zekthul had the look of someone who had seen many battles. Captain Lee, Zekthul said carefully, I am Fleet Admiral Zekthul of the Imperial Navy. I have come to resolve this situation. Fleet Admiral, Lee replied politely. I am honored to meet you. We hope the situation can be resolved peacefully. My officers tell me your ship has remarkable capabilities. They also tell me you showed mercy when you could have destroyed them. This is unusual. Dr. Choi Hana leaned closer to Lee. He's testing us, she whispered. He wants to understand our motivations. Lee nodded slightly. Fleet Admiral, we have no desire to harm anyone. We are explorers, not conquerors. Explorers with warships. Even explorers sometimes need protection. Zekthul was quiet for several seconds. Then he asked the question that had been bothering him since he arrived. Captain Lee, how did your people develop such advanced technology? Our records show no advanced civilizations in this region of space. This was the moment Captain Lee had been preparing for. Earth Command had given him specific instructions about what to reveal and when. Fleet Admiral, perhaps it would be better if we discussed this face-to-face. Would you be willing to come aboard our ship? The request shocked everyone on the Imperial Bridge. No alien had ever invited an Imperial commander to visit their vessel. It was unprecedented. Zekthul considered the offer. It could be a trap. But if the humans wanted to harm him, they could have destroyed his entire fleet already. Very well, Zekthul decided. I will come aboard with a small diplomatic party. Excellent, Lee replied. We will prepare to receive you. 2 hours later, Fleet Admiral Zekthul and 3 of his officers materialized in the Bayekdu's transporter room. The Imperial delegation looked around in amazement. The human ship's technology was sleek and efficient, far more advanced than anything they had seen. Captain Lee was waiting to greet them. With him were Dr. Choi Hana and Bei Minjung, the ship's intelligence officer. Welcome aboard the Baekdu, Lee said formally. Zekthul studied the human captain. Lee looked calm and confident, but not arrogant. This was not what the Fleet Admiral had expected. Captain Lee, your ship is most impressive. Your technology appears to be centuries ahead of ours. Thank you, Fleet Admiral. Please follow me. We have much to discuss. They walked through the ship's corridors toward the main conference room. The Imperial officers couldn't help staring at everything they saw. The human technology was beautiful and functional at the same time. In the conference room, Dr. Choi Hana activated a large display screen. It showed a map of the local galaxy with thousands of star systems marked. Fleet Admiral, Dr. Choi Hana began, we have been observing your empire for quite some time. Zekthul's eyes widened. Observing us, how? Bei Minjung stepped forward. As the intelligence officer, She had detailed files on Imperial military structure and capabilities. "We have been watching your civilization for over 50 years. We know about your military organization, your political structure, and your expansion patterns." "That's impossible," one of Zekthul's officers protested. "Our security systems would have detected any surveillance." Bei Minjung smiled slightly. "Not our surveillance systems. We have been very careful to remain undetected." She activated another display showing detailed information about Imperial fleet movements, political leaders, and military capabilities. The information was incredibly accurate and up-to-date. Zekthul felt a chill run through him. If the humans had been watching for 50 years, they knew everything about the Empire. Every weakness, every strength, every secret. "Why?" he asked. "Why have you been watching us?" Dr. Choi Hana answered, "Because we needed to understand you before making contact. First impressions are very important." "You could have contacted us years ago," Zekthul pointed out. "Yes," Lee agreed. "But we wanted to be sure you were ready. Your empire has a history of responding to new species with conquest. We needed to be certain we could defend ourselves if necessary. And now? Now we believe the time is right for formal contact between our civilizations." Zekthul looked around the conference room. Everything he saw suggested the humans were far more advanced than the Empire. Their technology, their knowledge, their careful planning. It was all beyond anything the Empire could match. "Captain Lee," Zekthul said slowly, "how many ships does your people have?" Lee exchanged glances with his officers. This was another moment Earth Command had prepared him for. "Fleet Admiral," Lee said carefully, "the Baekdu is a scout vessel. It is one of our smallest military ships." The words hit Zekthul like a physical blow. If this incredibly advanced vessel was one of their smallest ships, what did their main fleet look like? "How many ships?" Zekthul repeated. "Several hundred," Lee replied, "and more being built." Zekthul sat back in his chair. The implications were staggering. Humanity had a fleet that could challenge the entire Empire. Worse, they had been watching and planning for decades. "What do you want?" Zekthul asked. "Peace," Dr. Choi Hana answered immediately. "Trade, cultural exchange. We want to be neighbors, not enemies. And if the Empire refuses," Lee's expression became serious, "then we will defend ourselves. But we hope that won't be necessary." Bai Minjung activated one final display. It showed human settlements on dozens of worlds, all hidden from Imperial detection. The humans weren't just explorers with advanced ships. They were an established galactic civilization. "Fleet Admiral," Bai Minjung said, "humanity is already part of this galaxy. We have been here longer than you realize. The only question is whether we can coexist peacefully." Zekthul stared at the display showing human colonies. Some of them were in systems the Empire considered empty. Others were in regions they had never explored. Humanity had been building a hidden empire while the Imperials thought they controlled everything. The balance of galactic power had just shifted completely, and Zekthul was the first Imperial leader to understand what that meant. Fleet Admiral Zekthul sat in silence for several minutes, processing everything he had learned. The humans had been watching the Empire for 50 years. They had colonies throughout the galaxy. Their technology was centuries ahead of Imperial science, and they had a fleet of hundreds of advanced warships. The Empire was no longer the supreme power in the galaxy. "Captain Lee," Zekthul said finally, "I need to contact the Imperial Council immediately. This situation is far beyond my authority to handle." Lee nodded. "Of course, Fleet Admiral. We understand the significance of what we've shared with you." Dr. Choi Hana leaned forward. "Fleet Admiral, we hope the Imperial Council will see this as an opportunity rather than a threat." "An opportunity?" Zekthul asked. "For growth, for learning, for expanding beyond what either of our civilizations could achieve alone." Zekthul considered her words. The Empire had built its power through conquest and intimidation, but the humans represented something different. They were clearly stronger, but they offered partnership instead of demanding submission. "I will present your offer to the Council," Zekthul promised, "but I cannot guarantee their response. The Empire has never dealt with equals before." "We understand," Lee replied. "Change is never easy." The meeting ended shortly after. Zekthul and his officers returned to their ship, their minds reeling from what they had learned. The Imperial fleet remained in position, but no one knew what to do next. 3 days later, the situation changed again. Lieutenant Kim Taeyang looked up from his communications station with excitement. Captain, I'm receiving a transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Yu Dongyuk is requesting permission to enter Imperial space. Lee smiled. How many ships is he bringing? 57, sir. The Third Fleet in full battle formation. Dr. Choi Hana looked concerned. Captain, that might be seen as aggressive by the Imperials. Actually, Lee replied, I think it's exactly what we need. The Empire understands strength. Admiral Yu's arrival will make our position clear. On the Imperial flagship, alarms began sounding as sensors detected massive energy signatures approaching. Admiral Zekthul rushed to his bridge as his officers scrambled to their stations. Report, Zekthul ordered. Sir, we're detecting multiple contacts approaching at high speed. Energy signatures are similar to the human vessel, but much stronger. Zekthul felt his heart sink. How many contacts? 57 confirmed, sir. All large vessels. They'll be here in 30 minutes. Zekthul immediately opened a channel to Captain Lee. Captain, are those your reinforcements? Yes, Fleet Admiral. Admiral Yu Donghyuk commands our Third Fleet. He's coming to establish formal diplomatic relations with your government. 57 warship seems like a large diplomatic mission. Lee's voice remained calm. Admiral Yu believes in being prepared for any situation. When the human fleet arrived, even Zekthul was impressed, despite his fear. The ships moved in perfect formation, their hulls gleaming silver in the starlight. Each vessel was larger and more advanced than the Baekdu. The combined energy output of the fleet was beyond anything in the Imperial database. The largest ship, obviously the flagship, moved closer to the Imperial formation. Its hull bore the markings KDSF Seoul and Admiral Yu's command flags. Imperial Fleet, came a new voice over the communications channel. This is Admiral Yu Donghyuk of the Korean Defense Space Force Third Fleet. We come in peace. Admiral Yu's image appeared on the Imperial view screen. He was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes. His uniform was similar to Captain Lee's, but with more rank insignia. Admiral Yu, Zekthul replied carefully. I am Fleet Admiral Zekthul. Captain Lee has already introduced us to your people. Excellent. Captain Lee has done outstanding work here. I understand you've had some productive discussions. Yes, productive. Admiral Yu studied the disabled Imperial ships floating nearby. I see there was some initial misunderstanding about our capabilities. Your Captain Lee was very restrained in his response to our aggression, Zekthul admitted. Captain Lee is one of our finest officers. His mission was to make peaceful contact, and he has succeeded admirably. On the Baekdu, Captain Lee watched the arrival of the human fleet with satisfaction. Earth Command had timed everything perfectly. The Empire now understood exactly what they were dealing with. Captain, Park Suzy reported, Admiral Yu is requesting permission to come aboard. Granted, and ask him to bring Han Sori with him. Han Sori was the Korean Defense Space Force's top diplomatic attaché. Her arrival meant Earth was ready for formal negotiations with the Empire. 2 hours later, Admiral Yu and Han Sori materialized in the Baekdu's transporter room. Lee was waiting to greet them. Admiral, welcome aboard, Lee said, saluting formally. Excellent work, Captain, Yu replied. Earth Command is very pleased with your handling of this situation. Han Sori stepped forward. She was a small woman with intelligent eyes and a calm demeanor. Captain Lee, I've reviewed your reports. You've created an ideal foundation for formal diplomatic relations. Thank you, ma'am. The Imperial leadership seems willing to consider peaceful coexistence. Good. Because we have big plans for this relationship. Over the next several days, a series of meetings took place between human and Imperial representatives. Han Sori proved to be a skilled negotiator, finding common ground where none seemed to exist. The Empire wanted to maintain their dignity and authority. Humanity wanted peaceful expansion and trade opportunities. Both sides had something the other needed. The proposal is simple, Han Sori explained to Fleet Admiral Zekthul during one meeting. We recognize Imperial sovereignty over their existing territory. In exchange, you recognize humanity's right to expand into unclaimed regions of the galaxy. And what about technology sharing? Zekthul asked. Limited exchanges. We're willing to share some of our medical and agricultural advances. In return, we'd like access to your historical and cultural databases. Dr. Choi Hana had been studying Imperial society carefully. Fleet Admiral, your people have thousands of years of galactic experience. That knowledge is invaluable to us. Zekthul was beginning to see the benefits of cooperation. The Empire could learn from human technology while maintaining their political independence. It wasn't conquest, but it might be something better. There is one problem, Zekthul said. The Imperial Council will never admit that humanity is our equal. Our entire society is built on Imperial superiority. Hansori smiled. Then we won't ask them to admit it. Publicly, this can be presented as the Empire graciously welcoming a new species into the galactic community. The reality of our relationship can remain private. You would accept that arrangement? Fleet Admiral, we're not interested in humiliating the Empire. We just want to coexist peacefully. The negotiations continued for 2 weeks. Gradually, a framework emerged that both sides could accept. Humanity would be granted recognition as an independent galactic power. Trade agreements would be established. Cultural exchanges would be encouraged. Most importantly, both civilizations would work together to explore the unknown regions of the galaxy. Captain Lee stood on his bridge, watching the mixed fleet of human and Imperial ships. The sight would have been impossible just a month ago. Now it represented the future of galactic civilization. Captain, Lieutenant Kim reported, we're receiving new orders from Earth Command. We're to escort the Imperial diplomatic mission to Earth for formal treaty signing. Lee smiled. Excellent. Set course for Sol System. As the combined fleet prepared to depart, Admiral Zekthul sent one final message to Captain Lee. Captain, when this all began, I thought we were dealing with primitive aliens who had gotten lucky with one advanced ship. I was very wrong. Admiral, Lee replied, you responded exactly as your training and experience dictated. But the galaxy is larger than any of us realized. There's room for everyone to grow, indeed. I look forward to learning what that growth might bring. The ships engaged their faster-than-light drives and disappeared into hyperspace, carrying representatives of two great civilizations toward an uncertain but hopeful future. Behind them, the empty space of the Andorian sector returned to its peaceful quiet. But the galaxy itself had changed forever. The age of human isolation was over. The age of cooperation was about to begin, and in the depths of space, other civilizations watched and wondered what these new developments might mean for them. The universe had just become a much more interesting place. Admiral Vextar felt his world changing. His most powerful weapons had done nothing to the human ship. The alien vessel sat there peacefully, its blue shield still glowing. For the first time in his long military career, Vextar didn't know what to do. Admiral, Captain Thoric said carefully, their technology is clearly superior to ours. Perhaps we should establish formal diplomatic contact. Vextar's pride wouldn't let him admit defeat so easily. No, there must be another way. Get me Fleet Admiral Zekthul again. On the human ship, Captain Lee Minho watched the Imperial fleet's confusion with calm eyes. Dr. Choi Hana had predicted this exact reaction. The Empire's entire identity was based on being the strongest force in the galaxy. Meeting someone stronger would shake them deeply. Captain, Park Suzy reported from her tactical station. The Imperial ships are regrouping. They're taking new positions around us. Any change in their weapon status? Lee asked. No, sir. They seem to be waiting for new orders. Lieutenant Kim Taeyang looked up from his communications post. Sir, they're receiving a transmission from their high command. Fleet Admiral Zekthul is giving them new instructions. Lee nodded. What kind of instructions? I can't make out all the details, but it sounds like they're not giving up yet. The Fleet Admiral seems angry. Dr. Choi Hana studied the alien psychology reports on her display. Captain, Imperial doctrine doesn't allow for retreat from unknown species. Their pride demands they keep trying until they find a weakness. Even when they clearly can't win, Lee asked. Especially then, sir. The Empire has never encountered a superior enemy before. They don't know how to handle it. Chief Engineer Kang Ji-won was monitoring the human ship systems. Everything was running perfectly. Captain, our defensive systems are barely working at minimum power. We could probably handle 10 times their attack strength. Lee considered this information. The Baekdu was just one ship, and it was only a scout vessel. Earth's main battle fleet had weapons and defenses that made the Baekdu look primitive. But the aliens didn't need to know that yet, sir, Kim reported. The Imperial flagship is hailing us again. Put them through, Lee ordered. Admiral Vextar's voice came over the speakers, but now it sounded different. Harder, more desperate. Captain Lee, you have made your point. Your defensive systems are impressive. but we cannot allow unknown vessels to pass through Imperial space without proper identification. Lee exchanged glances with Dr. Choi Hana. She nodded slightly, indicating he should continue being patient but firm. Admiral Vextar, we understand your position, but we also cannot allow our ship to be boarded, or our technology to be examined. Perhaps there's a middle ground we can find. The middle ground, Vextar replied, is your surrender. The Empire has other ways to deal with stubborn aliens. Before Lee could respond, alarms sounded on the human bridge. Park Susie's tactical display lit up with new contacts. Captain, 6 more Imperial ships just dropped out of hyperspace. Heavy cruisers by the look of them. Lee wasn't surprised. He had expected reinforcements to arrive eventually. Are they taking aggressive positions? Not yet, sir. They're forming up with the original fleet. But Captain... Park paused, checking her readings again. These new ships have much more powerful weapons than the first group. Dr. Choi Hana looked worried for the first time. Sir, they're escalating. The Empire is bringing in their serious firepower. Kang Jiwon checked his engineering displays. Captain, even with the new ships, our shields can handle anything they throw at us, but they might try something different this time. Lee stood up from his command chair. The situation was getting more complicated. Kim, any communication between the Imperial ships? Yes, sir. The new fleet commander is Admiral Rixtak. She's considered one of their best tactical minds. And, sir, she's not happy about the situation. On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Vextar felt relief when Admiral Rixtak's image appeared on his view screen. Rixtak was known throughout the Empire for her strategic brilliance. If anyone could find a way to defeat the human ship, it would be her. Admiral Vexitar, Rixtak said, her insect-like features showing annoyance. Explain to me how one alien ship has stopped 13 Imperial vessels. Vexitar's scales darkened with embarrassment. Admiral, their technology is unexpected. Our weapons cannot penetrate their defensive shields. Rixtak studied the tactical display showing the human vessel. I can see their energy readings from here. These levels should be impossible for a ship that size. Yes, Admiral, that's what we thought too. Have you attempted boarding actions? They refused to allow it, and their shields would stop any boarding pods we might send. Rixtak was quiet for several seconds, thinking. Their ship is alone. No matter how advanced their defenses, they cannot fight 14 Imperial vessels indefinitely. We will wear them down. On the Baekdu, Osungwan was monitoring the situation from his weapons control station. As the ship's tactical specialist, he had been waiting for this moment. His console showed detailed information about every Imperial vessel in the area. Captain, O said calmly, the new Imperial commander is preparing for a sustained attack. All their ships are powering up to maximum strength. Lee looked at his weapons officer. Oh Sung-hwan had one of the finest tactical minds in the Korean Defense Space Force. What do you recommend? Sir, they're going to try to overwhelm our shields through sheer firepower. It won't work, but they don't know that. Perhaps we should show them what our weapons can do. Dr. Choi Hana looked alarmed. Captain, if we attack them, we could start a war. Not if we're careful about it, Oh replied. I can disable their weapons without destroying their ships. A surgical strike that proves our superiority without causing casualties. Lee considered the options. The Imperial fleet was about to launch a massive attack. When it failed, they would probably bring in even more ships. The situation could spiral out of control quickly. Oh, prepare weapon systems. Target only their weapon arrays. I want precision, not destruction. Yes, sir. Oh replied, his hands moving quickly over his controls. Admiral Rixitak gave the order to attack. 14 Imperial warships opened fire at once. The space around the human vessel became a storm of energy beams and plasma bolts. It was the largest concentrated attack the Empire had launched in decades. The Baekdu's shields absorbed everything without strain. But this time Lee decided to respond. Oh, you may fire when ready, Lee ordered. The human ship's weapons came online for the first time. Brilliant white energy beams lanced out from the Baekdu with incredible precision. Each beam struck an Imperial ship exactly where O intended, hitting weapon systems without damaging life support or engines. In less than 30 seconds, every Imperial weapon was destroyed. The alien fleet fell silent. 14 powerful warships drifted helplessly. Their guns melted slag, their crews unharmed but shocked beyond belief. Admiral Rixtak stared at her tactical display in disbelief. The human ship had done the impossible. It had disabled an entire fleet without killing anyone. The precision required for such an attack was beyond anything in Imperial experience. "Captain Lee," came Rikstak's voice over the communications channel. Her tone had changed completely. "That was remarkable. Your weapons technology is clearly far beyond ours," Lee responded calmly. "Admiral, we wanted to demonstrate that we mean no harm to your crews. We could have destroyed your ships, but we chose not to." "Why?" Rikstak asked. "Because we're not your enemies. We're just travelers passing through your space. We hope you can respect that now." On the Imperial flagship, Admiral Vextar felt his entire worldview crumbling. The human ship had just proved it could destroy the entire Imperial fleet whenever it chose to. But instead of doing so, it had shown mercy. This was not how the galaxy was supposed to work. Admiral Vextar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the empty space around him. His fleet was doing routine patrol work in the Andorian sector. Nothing interesting ever happened here. The last time anyone found a new species in this area was over 300 years ago. The reptilian admiral was bored. His scales were dull green today, showing his lack of excitement. Around him, his crew worked at their stations. Most of them looked as bored as he felt. The Galactic Empire controlled this part of space completely. "There were no threats here." "Sir," called out Lieutenant Korax from the sensor station, "I'm getting a strange reading." Vextar's head turned toward the young officer. "What kind of reading?" "Energy signature, sir. It's unlike anything in our database." Korax looked confused as he studied his screens. "The pattern doesn't match any known ship design." Before Vextar could respond, space in front of them began to shimmer. The stars seemed to bend and twist. Then, without any warning, a massive ship appeared. The bridge fell silent. Everyone stared at the view screen. The ship was huge, almost as big as Vextar's own flagship, but it looked completely different from any Imperial vessel. Its hull was dark gray with smooth angular lines. Strange markings were painted on its side. Captain Thorax, Vextar's second-in-command, moved closer to the view screen. His insect-like eyes studied the unknown ship carefully. "Admiral, those markings. They're not in our language database." Vexitar could see the symbols clearly now. There were letters that spelled KDSF Bekdu, and below that a circular symbol with rays coming out of it. The design was alien but somehow elegant. "How did it get here?" Vextar asked. "Our sensors should have detected any approaching ship." "That's just it, sir," Korax replied, his voice shaking slightly. "It didn't approach. It just appeared, like it came out of nowhere." On board the mysterious ship, Captain Lee Minho stood calmly on his bridge. He was a tall man with sharp features and steady eyes. His uniform was simple but clean, with rank insignia that would mean nothing to the aliens watching him. "Commander Park, what do you see?" Lee asked his tactical officer. Commander Park Suzy studied her displays carefully. She was known throughout the Korean Defense Space Force for her unusual strategies. 7 Imperial ships, sir. Standard patrol formation. They seem surprised by our arrival." Lieutenant Kim Taeyang looked up from his communication station. As the ship's xenolinguist, he had been preparing for this moment for months. "Captain, they're scanning us. Very primitive scans compared to ours." Lee nodded. He had expected this. The humans had been watching the Galactic Empire for years. They knew how the aliens would react to an unknown ship. "Are we recording everything?" "Yes, sir," Park replied. "All sensor data is being transmitted back to Earth Command." Lee walked to the front of his bridge and looked at the Imperial fleet through the view screen. The alien ships looked clumsy compared to human designs. Their hulls were thick and covered in visible weapons. They were built for intimidation, not efficiency. "They don't know what to make of us," Lee said quietly. Back on the Imperial flagship, Vexitar was getting impatient. "Hail them," he ordered. "Use standard first contact protocols." The communications officer nodded. "Channel open, sir." "Unknown vessel, this is Admiral Vextar of the Galactic Empire's 7th Fleet. You are in Imperial space. Identify yourself immediately." There was silence for several seconds. Then the reply came in perfect galactic standard. "Admiral Vextar, this is Captain Lee Minho of the KDSF Bekdu. We mean no harm. We are simply passing through this area." Vextar was shocked. The alien spoke their language perfectly. Not only that, but he knew Vextar's name and rank. How was that possible? Captain Thorax leaned closer to Vextar. "Admiral, their language skills are far too advanced for a newly discovered species." Vextar nodded slowly. Something was very wrong here. New species were supposed to be primitive. They weren't supposed to know Imperial languages or have ships that could appear from nowhere. Captain Lee, Vextar said, trying to sound commanding. Your ship's capabilities are impressive. Our sensors cannot fully analyze your vessel. This is unusual, Lee's voice came back calm and polite. We appreciate your curiosity, Admiral. However, we prefer to keep our technology private. We are not here to cause trouble. On the human ship, Park Suzy was monitoring the Imperial fleet's movements. Captain, they're moving into a surrounding formation. Classic intimidation pattern. Lee wasn't surprised. The humans had studied Imperial tactics for years. Any change in their weapon status? Not yet, sir. But they're definitely preparing for something. Lieutenant Kim Taeyang had been listening to Imperial communications. Sir, they're reporting back to their superiors. They're asking for instructions on how to handle us. Lee smiled slightly. Everything was going according to plan. Earth Command had known this would happen. The Galactic Empire always responded the same way to unknown ships. First confusion, then intimidation, then force if necessary. Kim, prepare a cultural analysis packet. Nothing too detailed, just enough to show them we understand their society. Yes, sir, Kim replied, his fingers moving quickly over his console. Vextar was becoming more nervous by the minute. The unknown ship just sat there making no threatening moves, but somehow that made it more frightening. Its very calmness suggested confidence. Sir, Korax called out, I'm reading massive energy reserves on that ship. Much higher than anything in our fleet. How much higher? Vextar asked, though he was afraid of the answer. At least 10 times our flagship's capacity, sir. Maybe more. Their shielding is blocking detailed scans. Vextar felt his scales shift to a darker color. That was impossible. No newly discovered species should have that kind of technology. The Empire had been exploring the galaxy for thousands of years. They had the most advanced ships known to exist, Admiral, Captain Thorax said quietly. Perhaps we should request reinforcements before proceeding further. Vextar looked at his second-in-command. Thorax was right to be cautious, but Vextar had his pride. He commanded 7 powerful warships. One unknown vessel, no matter how advanced, shouldn't be a threat. No, Vextar decided. We'll handle this ourselves. All ships move to close escort formation. We're going to get a better look at our visitors. On the human ship, alarms began to sound softly. The Imperial ships were moving closer, their weapons now visible and powered up. Park Suzy looked at her captain. Sir, they're trying to intimidate us. Standard Imperial procedure, Lee nodded. He had expected this too. Are our defensive systems ready? All systems standing by, sir, Park replied. Lee looked at his crew. They were all calm and professional. They had trained for this moment for years. First contact with the Galactic Empire was finally happening. Remember, Lee said to his bridge crew, we're not here to start a war. We're here to change everything. The Imperial ships moved closer to the human vessel. Admiral Vextar watched the formation change on his tactical display. His 7 warships now surrounded the strange ship called Baekdu. It should have been an impressive show of force, but Captain Lee Minho didn't seem impressed at all. Admiral Vextar, Lee's voice came over the communications channel. Your ships are taking aggressive positions. We hope this doesn't mean you consider us enemies. Vextar was surprised by the calm tone. Most species would be terrified by now. Captain Lee, we are following standard first contact procedures. Unknown vessels must submit to inspection for the safety of Imperial space. I understand your concerns, Lee replied. However, we must decline inspection at this time. We are simply passing through your territory and will be gone soon. On the human ship, Dr. Choi Hana studied the alien communications carefully. As the chief xenobiologist, she had spent years learning about Imperial culture and psychology. She turned to Captain Lee. Sir, they're testing us. The Empire always does this with new species. They want to see if we'll submit to their authority. Lee nodded. What do you recommend, Doctor? Show strength but not aggression. They respect power but fear unpredictable enemies. We need to prove we're not weak without starting a fight. Chief Engineer Kang Ji-won looked up from his station. He had been a civilian shipbuilder before joining the Korean Defense Space Force. Captain, their scanner beams are getting stronger. They're really trying to look inside our ship now. Can they succeed? Lee asked. Not a chance, sir, Kang replied with a slight smile. Our hull materials are beyond their technology level. To them, we probably look like a solid metal block. Lieutenant Kim Taeyang was monitoring Imperial communications between their ships. His translation equipment was picking up everything they said. Sir, they're confused. Their officers are reporting that our ship is impossible to scan properly. Park Susie was watching the tactical situation develop. The Imperial ships had weapons powered but not aimed directly at them yet. Captain, they're following their manual exactly. Next step will be a direct order to surrender. As if on cue, Admiral Vextar's voice filled the bridge again. Captain Lee, you will prepare your vessel for boarding immediately. This is not a request. Lee looked around his bridge. His crew was ready for whatever came next. Admiral, I'm afraid we cannot allow that. But perhaps we can find another solution. Vextar's scales darkened with anger. No one refused Imperial orders. Captain Lee, you have one of our ships. We have 7. Mathematics suggests you should cooperate. Mathematics can be deceiving, Admiral, Lee replied calmly. On the Imperial flagship, Captain Thorick studied the sensor readings again. Something was bothering him about the human ship. Admiral, their energy signatures are still climbing. Whatever power source they use, it's far beyond our understanding. Vextar ignored his second-in-command. He had dealt with primitive species before. They all acted brave at first. All ships target the unknown vessel. Weapons to minimum power. We want to disable, not destroy. The 7 Imperial warships turned their weapons toward the Bayek-Du. Energy readings spiked as plasma cannons and missile systems came online. It was an impressive display of firepower. Dr. Choi Hana watched the alien ships prepare to attack. Captain, this is the moment. How we respond now will determine everything that follows. Lee stood up from his command chair. Kang, bring defensive systems online. Full power. Yes, sir, Kang replied, his fingers dancing over his controls. What happened next shocked every alien in the Imperial fleet. The human ship suddenly blazed with energy. Brilliant blue shields appeared around its hull. The energy signature was so powerful that every Imperial sensor array overloaded temporarily. Impossible, Vextar shouted. No ship that size can generate that much power. On board the Baek-Du, the bridge crew remained calm. Their shields were just the beginning of what their ship could do. Admiral Vextar, Lee said over the communications channel, as you can see, we are not defenseless. We still prefer a peaceful resolution to this situation. Vextar stared at his sensor displays. The readings made no sense. The human ship's shields were stronger than anything in the Imperial database. Not even their largest battleships had defensive systems this powerful. Lieutenant Korax looked up from his station, fear clear in his voice. Admiral, their shield strength is off our scales. Our weapons might not even scratch them. That's impossible, Vextar repeated. But even as he said it, he knew it might be true. Captain Thorix moved closer to Vextar. Admiral, perhaps we should contact Fleet Command. This situation is beyond our experience. Before Vextar could reply, a new communication came in. It was from Fleet Admiral Zekthul, the Supreme Commander of the Imperial Navy. His image appeared on the main view screen. Admiral Vexitar, report. We received your transmission about an unknown vessel. Vextar tried to compose himself. Fleet Admiral, we have encountered a ship of unknown origin. They refuse to submit to inspection and have displayed advanced defensive capabilities. Zekthul's eyes narrowed. He was an old veteran who had fought many battles. How advanced? Their shields are beyond our current technology, sir. There was silence for several seconds. Then Zekthul spoke again. Disable their vessel, Admiral. Use whatever force is necessary. Sir, I'm not sure our weapons will be effective. Then find out, Admiral. The Empire does not negotiate with primitives. The communication ended. Vextar looked around his bridge. His crew was waiting for orders. He had no choice now. All ships fire, Vextar commanded. 7 Imperial warships opened fire at once. Plasma bolts and energy beams struck the human ship from all directions. The space around the Baek-Du lit up like a small star as weapons fire hit its shields. On the human bridge, alarms sounded briefly as the ship's defensive systems absorbed the attack. Park Susie checked her displays and shook her head. No damage, Captain. Their weapons can't penetrate our shields, Lee nodded. He had expected this result. Any change in their attack pattern? They're increasing power, sir. Looks like they're trying everything they have. The Imperial attack continued for several minutes. Every weapon in their fleet fired continuously at the human ship. The energy expenditure was enormous, but the Baek-Du's shields never wavered. Finally, the Imperial weapons fell silent. They had exhausted their immediate power reserves. Admiral Vextar stared at the undamaged human ship in disbelief. His most powerful weapons had accomplished nothing. The alien vessel sat there as calmly as before, its blue shield still glowing brightly. "Admiral," Captain Thoric said quietly, "we need to reconsider our approach." Dr. Choi Hana turned to Captain Lee. "Sir, they've just learned they can't hurt us. Now comes the interesting part. How will their pride handle this defeat?" Lee studied the Imperial fleet on his view screen. Some of the alien ships were already pulling back. Their commanders were probably as shocked as Admiral Vextar. "Kim, open a channel to the Imperial flagship," Lee ordered. "Channel open." "Sir, Admiral Vextar, we hope this demonstration has shown you that we are not helpless. We still wish to resolve this peacefully. Perhaps we can discuss a compromise." Vextar's voice came back much less confident than before.
What?
"What do you propose?" Lee smiled slightly. The real negotiations were about to begin.